Hello, everybody. Welcome back. The doctor is in. This is Doc Swift, and today I'm going to be continuing my discussion about the world building that went into creating the setting for The Last Warpiper. If you haven't watched my previous video where I talked about the fantasy races of this setting, I would appreciate if you go back and listen to that one. That way, you'll kind of understand where I'm going about with a little continuation on some aspects. Specifically of the human race in this setting. One of the things I wanted to do was take away some of the advantages that humans typically have in fantasy settings. The way I did that, first, because there are wolf people, and even though I don't really go into it, since there are anthropomorphic versions of many different animal species in this fantasy setting, I made the determination that if there are wolf people, they would have been evolving at the same time that the humans were evolving and the same time that the cat people and everyone else were evolving. And I looked at it in this way, that the wolf people would not look kindly upon the humans trying to tame them and turn them into dogs or dog people. So there are no dogs in the setting of The Last Warpiper. And the reason I did this is for multiple reasons. As you'll read in the novel, The Last Warpiper, there are times when individuals infiltrate cities, and if there were dogs, that would be a lot harder. It's just one of these things humans sort of take for granted how useful dogs have been throughout history, where not only do they help warn you of danger, they can help you fight off intruders, threats, anyone that wants to be hostile, because they're so loyal and they're so also just dependent upon the people who provide the shelter in the first place. So it's a very interesting relationship, and when you take that away in a fantasy setting, you really give some weakness to the humans that then they have to find other ways to overcome. Another interesting thing, and one of my beta readers pointed this out, in this setting there are no horses. There are no horse people, there are no domesticated horses, there are no horses of any kind. Partially that's because of some of my world building, but also it's for the same reason I didn't put dogs into this setting. Horses give humans an incredible advantage on the battlefield, just from cavalry, from being able to deliver messages from one end of a battle to another quickly, from helping evacuate in the event of a defeat. If there are none of these giant beasts that can move very fast and can roll over enemy infantry, for instance, again, humans have to be more clever when they strategize, when they develop their tactics. Because they don't have this beast of burden to do a lot of the work, they have to haul their own gear. They have to walk. They have to march. Now, I do have some draft beasts. I call them Aurochsen, modeled after the aurochs, which existed here on Earth. However, it's just slightly different. It's a domesticated version, so it's not like the wild aurochs that existed here on Earth. But unlike horses, they're a lot slower, so they are used for draft purposes only. No one's throwing a saddle on an aurochs and riding it into battle. So there's no cavalry. Humans have really just their own physical attributes and their mental attributes, their brain, in order to fight wars. Now, there are other issues. The humans are very good at building, but they're dependent on other things because they don't have fur. They need resources that the other races, cat people, wolf people, for instance, do not need. The other races do not need fire to stay warm in the winter, for instance. So the humans have a completely separate society, a completely different economy, because of the different needs that they have to fulfill in order to survive. They need clothing, they need warmth, that they can't just generate based on their anatomy and their physiology. So by taking away some of these typical advantages, I've made the humans more vulnerable. One of the things I have found is that all too often the humans in fantasy settings tend to roll over their enemies. And I wanted to make them a weaker species than they might otherwise be. That way, if you have a human and they're encountering a bear person, an anthropomorphic bear who might be 8 feet tall and weigh 400 pounds, you can see right away they are at a distinct disadvantage. Even if they have a spear, even if they have some armor, they might not survive that battle. So it's crucial that humans remain more unified, perhaps, than some of the other races in this setting. So that's really, that's all I want to say about finishing off the races. I have a couple other topics I want to talk about. One, I'll be talking about how I went about creating the magic system. And I previously mentioned, I believe, that I will talk about how I went about designing the dragons. There is a dragon that features in the Last Warpiper, and I went about a specific thought process in developing how that dragon looks, how it works, how it thinks. So I'll be getting into that in my next videos. And thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do, give me a like, maybe comment on the video, or even better, check out The Last Warpiper. It's available on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. Thanks. Have a great night.